both sides of the conversation family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm both sides of the conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we are about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we are caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Welcome everybody to both sides of the conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director. Today is Tuesday, so you know what that means. We'll have another Hidden Gem segment where we will continue to highlight our Black and Brown businesses, as well as those community leaders and organizations that do phenomenal things to positively impact our community. And with tonight, we have some phenomenal gems coming up, so looking forward to bringing them up shortly. But with that being said, we're going to jump into our community announcements and some of the road announcements before we get started with tonight's show. And then with that being said, just wanted to give an update. We have been receiving a tremendous amount of calls and support from community. We have some more meetings that we're going to go to, receive some very important calls today. As you all know, we talked about our 3 live shows. We're going to be cutting back our shows, but we have some promising news, some support, and some sponsorship that will be happening to help us fund some of the staffing that we need and some of the things that we need to push this platform forward. So with that being said, because we're in the last 2 months of the year, November and December coming up, we did get a sponsor, East Oakland Collective, to sponsor 2 of the main shows for the upcoming Sundays in November and December. So by popular demand, we will have on November 21st, our relationship conversation part 2. As you all know, that was a big, powerful conversation on the amount of community support who wanted to see a part 2 of that showed up. And we will have that conversation on November 21st. And then we'll have a final Sunday conversation in December. And then hopefully with some of the contracts and sponsorship talks that's going on, hopefully we will be able to bring back our 3 live shows after the New Year's without impacting the community. One of the things that we prided ourselves is trying to make sure that we keep this platform free of cost to our businesses and to the community, and we've tried to do that. But the financial impact, hopefully with some of the talks and some of the conversations that we're going to have coming up, we'll be able to continue to keep all of the resources that we provide on this platform to the community free. So looking forward to that. Things are happening. Community are speaking out. There's been a number of community folks just reaching out, knocking on doors, helping us support. We also have ways that you can support us by donating on our website, or also using the Smile feature for Amazon. If you want, every time you purchase something from Amazon, you can support both sides of the conversation through your purchases as well. So a number of things. We have some GoFundMes. We have some different things that's going on to help bring some financial stability to the platform so that we can get some of the staffing needs that we need and just help push this platform forward for the amazing things that we continue to do in our community. I want to give a huge shout out to our executive leadership team and the team, our board, working hard, reaching out to sponsors, reaching out to folks, trying to get that financial support. So I want to give a huge shout out to them. They've been grinding relentlessly, knocking on doors, sending emails, and just making sure that community know we need support. And you all know, no matter what they say about our community, it can be prideful. We ain't prideful here at both sides of the conversation. It takes a village. It takes a community. And, it's unfortunate that we even hear. I just personally cannot, continue to do the personal funding of this. I thought, as we created this, we would get to some point where we would get that support. But just financially, myself doing it and all of the things that we're doing, 3 shows a week is a lot. Very costly to do this digital media stuff. So we appreciate all of the support from the community. We thank you all. Nate there too, just been, helping us out with little things we ask. So we just appreciate all the community folks. So we'll jump into the world news and then we'll get into our community announcements and get started with tonight's show. Just want to put this out. This is powerful news to hear. A self-made Ghana British entrepreneur created some earbuds that will translate over 35 languages. This is pretty cool. This brother created some wireless earbuds that can translate 35 different languages from around the globe. His name is Danny Mayu, and he's on a mission to develop the world's first wireless earphones that can do that. I think that's very, very phenomenal. So some very futuristic things that are going to be happening. So I'll do a little bit more research and see what that is and check that out. That's pretty cool for all of our travelers that like to travel across the world. Nice to have some earbuds that could pick up what's going on. Now, I hope it's not as bad as Siri, but hopefully it can pick up the information to make sure you get the right information in your eardrum. With that being said, some important news as well. A Harvard pre-medical student leaves the school and cites white supremacy after she couldn't discuss the Breonna Taylor case before an exam. A Black Harvard student, she quit. She called it a great act of resistance by her professor on the refusal to speak about Breonna Taylor case before exam. Pretty sad to hear that. A young lady, advocating to keep the equity talks and talk about the social justice in some of these elite schools. They are still not being the collaborator, working with the community about these difficult issues. Sad to hear that news, but just wanted to put that out there to the community. And definitely we'll do our part to try to reach out and see if we can get the young sister to come on and talk about it. I think that's very, very important. Community announcement. There's a number of them that is taking place. Just so everybody know, for our folks across the Bay Area, especially our folks in Oakland, the East Oakland Collective is at 7800 MacArthur Boulevard. They are doing meals, catered meals for all of our families, seniors, and the community every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. And then every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. they are doing groceries and catered meals. And we know today they did a phenomenal job of getting that stuff out to community. So shout out to the East Oakland Collective for the work that they continue to do to impact our community. With that being said, the next community announcement, Mo Magic presents a Halloween celebration for the community, for our families. It's going to be held at El Hill Hutch at 1050 McAllister Street this Friday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. I'll get that information up on the screen as we get started. It's going to be a costume contest, food, games, and candy for our young people. Phenomenal event. Thanks to Brittany Ford and Uncle Stank over there for all the stuff they do for our young people to make them feel part of the community and making sure that they have fun during this pandemic. So looking forward to seeing that event. Also, there's another event that's happening. The Trunk or Treat is happening in East Oakland at the Liberation Lot at Eastmont Town Center, which is the Eastmont Mall at 6955 Foothill Boulevard. That is happening this Saturday, October the 30th from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. They'll be having candy, roller skating, pumpkin carving, and a number of face paintings and things of that nature. That's happening in Oakland this weekend. We'll get that information up on the screen as well as we get started. The Fillmore Jazz Ambassadors are presenting the Divisadero Jazz Sundays Sunday, October 31st from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Please get out there. It's at Divisadero on Grove Street. If you like jazz music, we had those jazz ambassadors on here last Tuesday for our Hidden Gems. Phenomenal folks. If you like jazz music, you want to hear some instruments and want to see what's going on the jazz scene, please check them out. On Sunday, October 31st. It's going to be phenomenal. They're doing some amazing stuff. With that being said, the East Oakland Collective and both sides of the conversation. We are presenting both sides of the Bay Unified Family and Friends Skate Day. That's going to be happening on November 13th, 2021 from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. It's also going to be at the Liberation Park at 7101 Foothill Boulevard in Oakland. We're going to bring all the families from across the Bay to come together and enjoy a day of skating, peace, unity, and solidarity with our community. We are looking forward to this event. This is going to be a nice event for our families to come out. It is a registered event, so please go to the Eventbrite and sign up under the Both Sides of the Conversation East Oakland Collective Skate Day. I'll put the flyer out. We've been blasting the flyer on all of our social media handles, and we'll let everybody know as we get close to it. About 200 meals that we're going to be providing free to the community, a number of vendors and folks that's going to be out there. So we're looking forward to that event. Any volunteers, we're still looking for a few more family volunteers, community volunteers. If you'd like to help, reach out to us. I think this is going to be a great event to just bring our people together and have a good time out before this rainy season comes. And hopefully the weather holds up, as we've been getting hit here in the area with the rain. And make sure that everybody comes. We're going to have rental skates, about 200 rental skates. So if you don't have skates, don't worry about it. Bring the young people out. And we're going to have a DJ and meals and things of that nature. So looking forward for that. Also, both sides of the conversation will be collaborating with East Oakland Collective and a number of other community sponsors to do the Feed the Hood 19, the Thanksgiving pop-up. We're going to be providing food, care, medical services, and things like that to those in need for the holiday season. That's going to be happening on Saturday, November 20th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're going to be meeting at East Oakland Collective, and I'm just looking forward. This is a huge event. For all you in the Bay Area that know about Feed the Hood, this has been going on for 19 years. Powerful event. A lot of volunteers, a lot of vendors coming to support this event as well. And we're going to be able to impact the community with a lot of meals and a lot of love. So we're looking forward to that event as well. Rain or shine, we'll be out there getting wet, feeding the people in need. With that being said, the OMI Culture Participation Project is happening on November 12th in the OMI Invest Black. It's going to be happening at 650 Capitol Avenue in San Francisco. The doors will open at 5:30, and the show is going to be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's going to be DJs, food, line dancing. It's going to be a number of things happening. Proof of vaccination is required and social distancing. Please reach out to Maurice Rivers. I'll get that information up on the screen as we'll continue to blast out that information. And oh my, they down there having a bowling day tonight. We wasn't able to be out there tonight, but they out bowling, having a good time tonight. We missed that event, but they're out there having a good time right now with community. Also, From the Heart, my sister Maika Pinkston is having a Halloween costume contest on Sunday, October 31st from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. It's going to be held at the Bayview Apartment Common Court, 5 Common Court. We want all of the young people to come out and celebrate with them. Youth from 2 to 10 and 10 to 16. They're going to have free food, raffle, candies, and costumes, contests, and all that stuff. So it'll be a great little event for the kids in the community to get out and enjoy the week that Sunday evening. So we're looking forward for that event. And then for our both sides of the conversation announcement, as I said early in the pre-entry, you have an opportunity to also help support us while you shop. You can hide all the boxes and all this stuff. Go to Amazon Smile into that program, and you can donate 0.5% of your eligible purchase on Amazon to a charity of your choice. You could choose both sides of the conversation, and you could just start shopping. All you have to do is just when you go into your Amazon account, just click on the Smile under the charity, and you could click both sides of the conversation, and part of that purchase will get supported to both sides of the conversation. So thank you all. If you do that, we appreciate you. But that's just another way that you can give. This Thursday, we're going to have another educational presentation. We're going to have a special presentation by Dr. Leah Johnson. She's going to come on and do a financial literacy educational presentation this Thursday. Very important stuff, especially as we are getting into the holiday season. You know, we have to continue to intentionally make sure that our communities get this financial literacy stuff in our families. We don't want people out overspending over the holiday season, putting themselves in even more financial ruin. But we want to also get her to come on and educate the community about financial literacy. How do we build wealth? How do we build equity? How do we get out of this debt? and how do we make sure that our communities learn about financial literacy so we can pass on the generational wealth to our young folks that's coming up under us. So be here this Thursday at 6 p.m. So if you all around and you want to check it out, please check out Dr. Leah Johnson for her financial literacy presentation. And then our Sunday conversation, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be having two more. The third Sunday of every month, which the first one will be November 21st, and that will be the relationship part 2 conversation. And then the second one will be December 19th. It'll be the doulas and midwives. A great conversation about the doulas and the midwives. So looking forward to that conversation as well. Very, very important, powerful stuff that impacts our community. So with that being said, I'm going to close my mouth now. Enough of the community announcements. I know y'all tired of hearing me. And we're going to bring up my brother Nate and welcome Nate. And I just want to tell everybody how powerful Nate is and just the amazing program that he's running for our young folks and for the families. I went out there to support the Junior NBA League. And let me tell you, Nate got that thing like a science, man. You come up, you register, you get your COVID test, rapid test, 15 minutes. You clear, you go in and enjoy the young people playing and the coaches, the families, the way they support the young people is very, very powerful stuff. What a way, Nate, to build up our young people and give them that confidence to be around other folks and things of that nature. Very, very powerful stuff, man. Just want to say thank you and appreciate your dedication to the community, loving on everybody, especially our young people, and making sure that they get a little sense of being back to normal out there in the community and doing it safe. So we appreciate your leadership, Nate.
Yep, I'm just glad, just glad to be back, and thank you for supporting, man. We got a lot of good things coming on. We got about 300 kids out there that's playing basketball, boys and girls, citywide. In November, we have a STEM fair that's going to be in conjunction with the league, and then we have a financial literacy thing with Dr. Davis team the week after. So it's going to be great. Thank you for supporting, John.
Man, phenomenal stuff. Thank you, Nate. And, I just appreciate you always bringing the resources, not only to the young people, but to the families of those young people and making sure that we get anything. So thank you very much, Nate, for all you do for our community. And I also seen you got out another 41 groceries to families impacted. Powerful stuff, man. We just thank you for all the stuff you do in the community. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring up tonight's hidden gems. They've been waiting patiently, and we got two phenomenal gems coming up to talk about their organization and the work they're doing. We're going to bring up Miss Daisy and Brother Joaquin, and they're going to talk about their organization and what they're doing to help impact the community.
Cool. Thank you so much, John. And thank you, Nate, as well. I'm going to start sharing my screen because I have a little presentation. Let me see. Are you able to see this?
Yep, it's up.
Okay, cool. So let me introduce myself. Like John said, I have a little flu, so my throat is probably a little sore right now. But my name's Daisy Blaze. I'm the social media content manager of St. James Infirmary. I'm also one of the outreach team members. And so and then let me introduce you to Joaquin as well. Joaquin, would you like
unmute yourself, Joaquin?
Sorry about that. I'm Joaquin. I'm the director of housing for our Trans Home SF, which is a program of St. James. And I'll tell you a little bit about our program after Daisy gives you the overview of St. James as a organization.
So I think it's important before we talk about like what we do at St. James to talk about like what sex work is, because that really ties into a lot of the services that we provide. So sex work is it's a politicized term coined by Carol Lee or Scarlet Harlot in the 1970s. And it's just basically it's a distinction between sex trafficking and sex work. So sex work entails consensual sex with adults. So the forms of sex work that we see is street-based sex work, escorting, brothel work, strippers. So when we say brothel, like massage therapy, massage parlors, strippers, dom work, sexology or body work, sex surrogacy, pro dom work, pornos, so skin flicks, and some of these forms actually are involve like engaging in sex, but some of these don't really require a sex worker to have to engage with sex with their client. And so there's legal forms of sex work in the Bay Area, like I mentioned, stripping, adult films, BDSM, even like theater shows before COVID. There was like the Nob Hill Theater, phone sex operation, and sex educators. Those are all legal forms of sex work, but there's also illegal forms of sex work, and we know that it's illegal because of this. Well, it's not only illegal, but it's also put sex workers in greater risk of harm because of the stigmatization around sex work. So that perpetuates sex workers to, or that leads sex workers to, for us to experience violence, difficulty accessing healthcare, not only physical healthcare, but also mental health, mental wellness challenges, and so on, as well as risk of arrests. And because a lot of sex workers are at the intersections of various margins or oppressed communities, this just furthers the the stigmatization and the criminalization. So like I said, sex work and sex trafficking are very different. Sex work is consensual and voluntary. Human trafficking trafficking is just another form of slavery, and that happens here in the United States, that happens outside of the United States, but specifically what we're talking about are people who are consensual and voluntary sex workers. So the economics of sex work really, when we talk about the economics of sex work and the politics of sex work, we're really talking about the hierarchy. And so that can go based on what setting the sex worker works in. I personally have done various forms of sex work myself. I've done street-based sex work, but I also have done online-based sex work. So when we talk about like the hierarchy, we're talking about the what forms of harm can be enacted. And also, like I said, some people don't really engage in sex with their clients, so like strippers. That is also a form of the hierarchy where they feel like, well, I'm better than like a street-based sex worker because I don't walk the streets, or like I don't really have to have sex with my clients. But we're also susceptible to aging out early because of misogyny and the way men view the youth of a woman. They value a youthful woman over a matured woman, or a femme identified person, or even as we see in San Francisco, we have a lot of rent boys or like male sex workers. And when this happens, then this limits us to access to housing, economic stability, and so on. And this is like been historically, this is like an ongoing problem. And oh yeah, and also Maya Angelou was a sex worker. So like I said, different forms of violence can be family violence, partner violence, occupational violence, systemic violence, and so on. And so at St. James, our mission is, so as you heard me say, I'm a sex worker. I'm open about my sex work, my experiences in sex work. And at St. James, we're a peer-based occupational health and safety clinic for sex workers of all genders, and also races, obviously. It's our mission to meet the needs of people in engaging in sex trade through advocacy, direct services, and social justice. And so let me talk about what some of those, well, before I talk about what those services are, let me talk about a little bit of her history. So Margot St. James was our founder, and it started as a project called Call Off Your Old Tired Ethics. Sorry, I'm like drinking ginger too, so I'm having like a little bit of heartburn right now all of a sudden. But yeah, Call Off Your Old Tired Ethics, or Coyote. And so we were in like this was even before, because we're like a 20-year-old organization, 22 years old, 23, no, 22. And so this is like when I was a child. But in the Department of Health, in like the basement, we've moved to various places. And so yeah, some of our services that we provide, RIP Margot St. James, she actually just passed away this year. But yeah, some of the services that we provide are HIV, STI services, hepatitis counsel, so testing and counseling in case you get like diagnosed with one of, an STI or something, primary urgent medical care, disease prevention, and health promotion. So this comes in the form of safer sex supplies, the outreach. So I actually, like I said, I'm also an outreach team member. So I have the honor of like going out on the streets at at night, when I used to, at the same place I used to walk, I'm able to like actually help, provide services and like give out condoms to girls and everything. And I think that's really cool. We also have safe syringe access sites. So that was formerly known as a needle exchange, but we don't really require participants to provide their dirty needles, because we don't want to have that a barrier to receiving clean supplies, clean needles. Peer counseling, holistic acupuncture, and massage therapy. So in Las Mujeres, we have acupuncturist who comes in and like does acupuncture, support groups, workshops, trans healthcare through the Stride program, food and clothing closet. We have case management, individual counseling, as well as our trans home, which Joaquin is going to talk about soon. We also have the Dear Sex Workers, We Love You online series, which is through Celestina, our outreach director, hosted that. She created that. We also have a bad date list available on our website. So if you go to stjames.org, you'll see access to the bad date list. If you just go to follow us on Instagram and like ask us for the password, and then email us and you'll get the password to the bad date list. And we also have harm reduction community navigators program, which allows us to, it's like I believe it's a 3-month program where community navigator, we identify people within the community who are able to pay cash to spread services, like peer educators, basically. And yeah, we have a couple of changes during COVID, but you can see the changes here. And here is a list of our community partners. And I think this would be a perfect time to segue over to Joaquin.
Awesome. Thanks, Daisy.
Of course.
As you can see, kind of St. James is a clinic that offers a number of different programs and services. And so the latest program is the one that I direct, which is we just started providing housing services specifically to our trans population. And the reason for that is that because of the marginalizations that trans people deal with, often they're forced into sex work for survival, if their families don't support them because of violence and discrimination. And so, as an organization, we were recommended to take on this program, which was funded by the mayor. And at the time of the ribbon cutting, which was last January, I was a board member of St. James and a former participant. So I was actually unhoused at the time that the program opened. And I had worked as a volunteer to kind of build out the program because we always want to kind of follow a lived experience. And I think the reason that it was a strong point for me to be in that position was that I could kind of have the experience of being like, these are the ways that it would hurt me if people mistreated our participants. And because I had so recently had that experience, I kind of deal with like a certain level of empathy towards the needs of the population. I'm going to share my screen also. Let's see here. Okay. How do I do this? Oops. Okay. Oh. Can you see it there?
Yep, it's up.
Okay, great. So this is our website, as you can see. And I want to talk a little bit about how this program came together because the Trans Advocacy Committee of San Francisco, which is a group of trans leaders in the city, kind of came together to advocate for this program based on the needs of the trans community, because so many trans people face discrimination and deal with a higher percentage of homelessness. And here are the statistics. So 1 out of 2 trans people have been homeless. Trans people are 10 times more likely to be homeless, and 70% of trans people in shelters have been harassed. So this is kind of to show the statistics around why it was really important for us to create this program that is specific to the trans community. And it was really useful to have St. James as an organization lead it because of the attachment to it being attached to a clinic allows us to provide kind of like medical services, HIV testing, and other programs to link to our program. So I'm going to show you a little video about when this kind of came together. And then afterwards, I'll give you a little oversight of how the program works. And then I can show you some statistics about the impacts we've had on the community. So I'm just going to play this video for now, if that's okay.
Home. It's a small word with big meaning. Our home is our castle. Home is where the heart is. There's no place like home. Because home means love. Home means family. But too many members of our trans family don't have homes. It's a crisis. Many of us end up homeless because of discrimination. You feel tired because you don't have a safe place to sleep. You can't apply for jobs without an address. And you often face violence and discrimination. No one should have to go through this. But we can fix this. After all,
we're innovators.
Leaders.
We're fighters.
Somos resistentes.
Somos poderosas.
And we're not alone.
And to those in Washington, D.C. who continue to try and erase transgender people, it won't work, not here in San Francisco.
When we work together, there's nothing we can't do. Join us at Our Trans Home SF to get involved. Everyone deserves a safe place to call home.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop screen share. Sorry about that. Okay, am I back on? There we go.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, that's kind of the video, showing the need, and a lot of the people in that video are leaders in the San Francisco trans community who, direct other partnering organizations that were listed in the slides that Daisy presented. For example, Taja's Coalition, Transgender District, TGIJP, and the Office of Trans Initiatives. So they all kind of, came together to advocate for this program for the needs of the community. And what that resulted in is a 2-piece program. So we have a 15-room Victorian house in the Mission, which is actually more beautiful than any house I've ever lived in. And that's the piece that's kind of set up for people who are currently street involved or, living in cars or couch surfing and about to become street involved. And they can come into that house yeah, like I said, 15 rooms, and we have 3 house managers who support. We provide food, we provide toiletries and any kind of living supplies. And then they work with the case manager for 18 months. The ideal structure of the program is the first 6 months you have to kind of get used to being in shelter. So, it could be as simple as getting used to making your bed every day because you, for the first time, have somewhere stable to live. So the next 6 months, you'd be working with the case manager to kind of accomplish your goals of, getting surgery. A lot of trans people come to San Francisco from all over the world to access gender affirming surgeries, and they need a safe place to be able to recover. Another thing could be like seeking education. So maybe they want to get into school. And then employment, which is very important, or, could be for some of our seniors receiving SSI or any other kind of general assistance. So the next 6 months would kind of be used to meet those goals. And then the last 6 months would be ideally set up to kind of start saving money or preparing yourself to look for your own apartment or your own housing, in which you would then graduate from the house onto the subsidy program. And then our subsidy program, I'll give you an overview of, but basically we're taking and supporting our community members who are currently street involved or about to lose their housing. Some will go through this program and then be able to live independently and have their rent for 18 months in order for them to save money, in order to really make sure that once they've graduated from the subsidy, they are able to survive independently and elevate themselves. And so the subsidy actually currently subsidizes 81 people and will continue to grow. This program is the first of its kind and it's quite small. And we still have really lengthy wait lists, about 40 people on the wait list for our subsidy, about the same for our house. So we've just barely hit the tip of the iceberg with addressing the issues that we're confronting here as far as the margins that the trans community faces. I'll just show you a quick slide if I have time for our subsidy program and the way that that works. And like I said, we currently are subsidizing about 80 something people. And this is the kind of the impact that we've had. Let's see. So they can also apply separately, from the house. You don't have to go through the house to get the subsidy. You can apply to the subsidy and then basically say, I'm low income, I have a hard time paying my rent, and you can apply to then see if you're eligible. And this is the ways in which you will be eligible. So the requirements are that you must self-identify as trans, non-binary, or gender non-conforming or intersex. You must make under 55K a year and be experiencing homelessness or housing instability. Prioritizing of Black trans people, non-Black people of color, sex workers, those who are undocumented, formerly incarcerated, or living with HIV or other chronic illnesses. This is the kind of the way that it works, that we break down the income. Basically, the more money you make, the least amount we cover of your rent. And, so each category has a certain amount that we would cover depending. That way we create equity by saying, we'll pay more for people who have less income, we'll pay less for people who have a higher income. And so these are the calculations that we make. And here's kind of like the statistics. Let me go to this other one, which is a little more clear. So 100% of our participants make under 55K, 91 make under 34, and over a half make under 12K. So that means over half of the people that we're subsidizing are not having an income that is a living wage or even barely anything to survive on. So that shows kind of why this program is super important, because over half of those 81 people have no source of income. So over 75% of the subsidy participants were women of transgender experience. This kind of also shows that our program predominantly serves transgender women, also trans men and non-binary people, but predominantly the need is for transgender women who face a great deal of discrimination, primarily Black and Latina transgender women, because of the intersection of racism and transphobia. So that kind of shows kind of the impacts that discrimination has on who is most impacted by trauma and violence and kind of marginal barriers. So here we see that 82% of our participants were people of color. Almost 40% of subsidy participants were Black, and another 40% were multiracial. 90% of these identified, those identified as multiracial also identified as Latinx. So this kind of shows here, blue is Native. This is our Black population here, and 17% are white. And yeah, here's the contact information. This is kind of myself and the other directors that are part of the operations team. And here again is our website if you'd like to visit it to find out more. And that's it for me. I just want to say that. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to my screen. Uh-oh. Am I still sharing my screen?
No, you stop sharing.
Okay, here we go. Sorry.
Well, that's phenomenal. Thank you and Daisy for coming on. I think that was great information. I did have a couple of questions because you mentioned something that we know in San Francisco. The trans community is have a big population, but also dealing with those disparities. Just to see the amount of people at $12,000 a year is alarming because in San Francisco the cost of living is so high. So it's amazing to see the program that you all are offering to those folks to help support, because that's a big wage gap. And then, like you said, trying to get employment and different things of that nature is very, very challenging for some folks. So that's just amazing, the work that you all are doing. But I had a question earlier from when Daisy was talking about, the sex workers versus the human trafficking. We had a segment on our Sunday conversation talking about human trafficking. And I remember, I vaguely remember she said something about there's something about states legalizing sex workers, but it also impacts and sometimes push those folks into human trafficking. I might be missing the question, but wanted to ask you all that. How does that work here in San Francisco? We know our DA doesn't charge for anything anyway, but far as the work that Daisy was talking about, the legal stance versus the human trafficking that's taking place, especially with the young people, how is that impacted and how do you all advocate to support?
Well, I think that it would be disingenuous to say that human trafficking doesn't happen in the same spaces that sex work happens. So when I say that, I mean for example, on International Street here in Oakland, I live in Oakland, you'll see girls literally getting swept up and taken into cars and everything. And there are definitely organizations out there to help support those people, those girls. But and we will definitely help them too. I'm not going to say that, but what we really specifically focus on are people who are consensual. And I think that would be an opportunity to refer services out to another organization. And I know, we have someone here literally we're going to speak in a second from Young Women's Freedom Center, Julia, who's going to talk about, and she has personal background with sex trafficking. Not her, but she with in her personal she's worked with Missy, I believe, so she could talk about that more. But I think that it is really important, and especially around creating laws. I think it's really important to have both parties present in the conversation, because a couple of years ago there was the whole Sesta Fosta, which affected a lot of online sex workers who use Backpage and Craigslist, and we weren't able to post on there for a while because we're not able to post on there at all because it got taken down. And I think it's really important to it's important for us to think about sensationalist media, because I think the way that media has always worked, but especially with social media, we will have confirmation bias, and we will look for the narratives that will confirm the ideas that we have in our heads. And I think it's really important to really look out and have everyone involved in the conversation. So when I talk about Sesta Fosta, that affected a lot of sex workers, and the people who are leading the conversations are coming at it from a more religious standpoint. And I don't think that it's people who have actually the organizations will identify people who have been impacted by the topics that they're talking about, but it's not conversations led by those who have had those lived experiences. Most recently, the same organization, and I'll name them, Exodus Cry, has been leading OnlyFans. In the most recent news is OnlyFans to basically telling, like, asking them to no longer allow sex workers on their platform. But as we see, sex workers spoke up and we're like, no, fuck that. We're going to be here, and we're still there. So yeah, and that is currently happening with MasterCard, where a lot of sensationalist articles are coming out. So I think we just really have to have everyone involved in the conversation.
Well, definitely. I would love to put a conversation together, have a Sunday conversation with some of our elected officials, the community, and some folks. I mean, that's what both sides of the conversation is about. I think that also, when we talk about sex work and things of that nature in our communities, a lot of times, especially the Black and brown communities, those conversations are very taboo, and very stigmatized. So, one of the things is like really education and awareness. And I think that's the biggest thing that I would like to see happen, because too many times, like you said, through social media or other political stance, people have these ideologies and different things. But I think there is a level of education and awareness and information that needs to come to the community. So I would definitely like to be a part of that conversation. Here we about transparency and we about equality and making sure that all of our community voices are heard. So I would definitely give you all the space, and maybe we could talk offline, recruitment and getting some of our elected officials to come on and have a conversation, a true conversation. What does it look like? Legalization. But all of the work that you all are doing when it comes to the prevention and medical health awareness. I saw a list of the stuff that you all are doing to help impact those workers and people in the community. I think is very important, because I think during this pandemic, we've lost a lot of those services in the community. So it's just nice to see you all do it. I remember it was a time where, DPH and different organizations will come to the community, talk to our young people about sex education and STDs, pass out condoms. And then, that stuff kind of went away during the pandemic. So it's just nice that you all are doing the proactive stuff to make sure that people are safe. People live the way they live. We're not judgmental. It's about, making sure people are safe and have adequate access to medical services and things of that nature. So that's phenomenal stuff that you all are doing. But Joaquin, did you want to say something real quick before we?
Yeah, a couple points I want to highlight, and then just to echo Daisy about, the whole kind of conversation about sex work versus trafficking. So, I've kind of been involved in the more national conversation of sex work advocates that are working towards decriminalization, which is actually very different than legalization. Legalization gives the state control over our industry, and decriminalization stops our people from going to jail. So, you kind of want to think about it that way, right? And then secondly, for example, something that happens with pushing trafficking movements is that it actually just creates an environment in which people of color can face longer charges, because instead of being charged with, say, pimping or pandering, you might be charged with sex trafficking. And then often what that leads to is a lot of young men and women of color being given life sentences rather than, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think the belief is that sex trafficking laws are going to protect people. And actually what they do is they lead to longer incarceration for people of color. And it also, as Daisy said, it takes away a lot of the avenues in which sex workers have to protect themselves. And one really quick example of that is, Backpage used to exist. And what that did for myself as a sex worker at the time, who was undocumented, I didn't have a green card. That was the only way I've had to make money besides working in the weed industry, And so what that does is, I no longer had a way to screen my clients by emailing them, asking them for ID, and communicating exactly what I felt safe, which place to have it be in, what I was comfortable with it going down, whether my friend was going to come there and pick me up or not. And so, really when they took that away, all of a sudden it's like, okay, maybe you're on some app, or maybe how else are you going to make your coin? That's the only thing you have to rely on. Now they think that they're protecting people from being trafficked. But what they're doing is they're actually putting people who rely on sex work in harm's way by taking away the avenues in which they had to keep each other safe and to keep themselves safe. So I think that people have this moralistic idea that like creating laws is going to protect people, instead of addressing the issues as to why they have to make those decisions in the first place, and giving them a voice to say, no, this is what we need to protect ourselves. And these are the reasons that we choose or have to participate in this industry. So I just want to throw that out there as far as the trafficking conversation, because I think it's really important to highlight those pieces, because often people feel that they're doing the right thing and they're coming from this place of trying to protect people, especially youth, So it actually can work backwards. And I want people
it's kind of like the idea of Captain Save-A-Ho or like the white savior complex, it's like, but you don't really know, you know?
Right.
And also too, like with the whole like legalization versus decriminalization, you know, and you talked about it, like the barriers to entry, like we don't want legalization because it's gonna like limit access to like the ways that we've been creating our income, our money. And so a legislation that's coming around, if anyone wants to support these efforts, Decrim California has Senate Bill 357 coming out, and it's just basically to prevent police from like citing people for solicitation of prostitution. So in San Francisco, we are kind of protected, but outside of the Bay Area, like here in Oakland and, you know, Contra Costa County, say that 3 times fast. But you know, it's highly criminalized. So yeah, like those little things will really help the greater issue.
Wow. Well, thank you all for, you know, coming here, explaining that, and getting community aware of what's going on those Senate bills. And if you all could send that information out, we'll make sure that we get it out to the community. Phenomenal work that you all are doing to help impact the community. It takes a number of community organizations to come together, make sure that the people, at the end of the day, it's about the people are safe, protected, and have the resources. And it sounds like St. James is doing that. We'll make sure that we get that information out. And thank you all for coming on tonight as Hidden Gems, and just educating the community and letting them know where you at for services. As we know, during this time, we are facing a lot of crises, especially here in San Francisco, but across this country, and people need support. So thank you all for your organization and you all leadership to make sure that the people of the community have, you know, a community organization that they can trust in and believe in and get support. All right. Well, thank you all for coming on tonight, and we'll definitely be reaching out to y'all. And if you have any information that you all would like to send out to us to get out to the community for any events or anything that you have, please feel free to send it to us, and we'll blast it out on our social media handles. All right. All right. No problem. Thank you very much. And looking forward to having those conversations coming up soon. We should definitely have that.
Yeah. I'll see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming in tonight. All right, community, our first set of Hidden Gems coming on tonight. You know, very, very important conversation, very important organization impacting our community. Next, we're going to bring up Dr. Martina so she could come up and talk about her or what's going on with her and the things that she's doing as well. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, and thank you for having me on the show. I am a person who has worked with culture, arts, and education, and all of the work that I do in the community in San Francisco and Oakland revolves around community building, education, literacy through the arts. And you know, as a result of the pandemic, you know, when the pandemic hit, parents were calling me, parents of young children. They were really impacted by COVID and online learning, especially little ones who were 3 and 4 years old, or kids who were going to school for the first time and had never been in a preschool and didn't really understand what school was about. It was really difficult for children to go on online learning, and especially for children, you know, Latino immigrants or non-English speaking children. It was very traumatic for them. So my husband Alex and I started a free circle time at Presida Park, and we invited children to come for 2 hours to get an idea of what school was about while sitting outdoors around a tree in a COVID safe space. And this was at the very onset of the pandemic. So, you know, we were filled and kids were coming, and we were only going to do it for a few weeks. And the weeks have, you know, turned into months. And the parents asked us if we would continue and if we would be willing to open up a little school. So it was at that time what was feasible for us, given our economics and our belief in creating our own institutions. I think it's really important for people of color who see a need to identify it and be bold and create the institutions for ourselves, create the community spaces that we need. So we worked through the system and we said, okay, we could start small with what we have. We have a small 1-bedroom apartment in Oakland, and we decided to license it as a family childcare. And because I do have a background in education, I've been teaching for over 35 years. I've taught all grades. I train teachers as well. So we decided to have a combination of family daycare and micro school. So we are a little private school that is affordable for children of color. During the pandemic, parents who could afford it were able to take their kids to learning pods so that they wouldn't have any learning loss. Our families couldn't afford that. They didn't have those resources. And many children stayed at home alone, because their parents were the domestic workers. They were the essential workers that had to go to work. So we started caring for these children in our home. And we were there to either support them with online learning, but really what they needed was in-person education. So we've been offering a private education in our home through family childcare for children in preschool through 2nd grade. And we have created a little school, and we call it Uptown Little Birds, micro school and daycare. Daycare is super important for our families as well, especially daycares that are open during non-traditional hours. And that means daycares that are open before 8 and that are open after 5, because most of our families work non-traditional hours in the evenings, on weekends, or early mornings, or some of them work the night shift. And our children need a safe place to be. So that is what our family daycare does. And we are very small. We only serve 6 children. We do have space because we have multiple shifts. So if you know of anybody who could use a private education one-on-one, we have 2 teachers, 2 fully credentialed, experienced teachers. We have over 35 years of experience working one-on-one with children, regardless of what their background is. We will help them. We do accept vouchers, subsidies, and we have some funding for scholarships for children. So if any of you are in need of childcare, that's, we have that in Oakland. It's Uptown Little Birds Micro School and Daycare, and you could call 888-755-5383 or visit our website at uptownlittlebirds.com. In addition to the daycare, I'm a cultural worker, and I believe that art is a powerful tool for education and for bringing attention to social issues. So the way that I work with communities is I work with nonprofits to develop community building events that bring attention to social issues. And I work directly with family support providers, direct service providers, and I do trainings with them as well as support the different causes of the organizations in the Bay Area. Right now, I want to promote 2 events that are coming up. It's Day of the Dead. It's a big cultural celebration for me. They say that we die 3 times. First time we die is when we take our last breath. The second death is when they bury us, or we are, pretty much taken. The third death is our real death, and that's when we're forgotten. And that is why the Day of the Dead is a very important celebration to me. It's a celebration of life, but it's also an opportunity to honor those who have gone and to honor their memory by being proactive. So this year I have built 2 altars. One altar is at Calle 24 in the San Francisco Mission District, and it's dedicated to women and children and queer, trans people of color who have been missing, who have died as a result of violence. Now, violence is preventable. And yet here we have women and children dying every day due to domestic violence or unnecessary shootings or brutal aggressions in the streets. There are 8 women that we are honoring this year. The first one is Evelyn Hernandez and her young 4-year-old son, Alex, as well as her unborn son. Evelyn was murdered a few years ago at the same time as Lacey Peterson, but she got no media attention. Her body, she went missing. Her torso and her child's leg were found under the Golden Gate Bridge. And we have still not found the people responsible for it. We know we know that her boyfriend, whom was married, was not too happy of the fact that she was having a child, and just, she carried that child full term and was found dead just days before giving birth. So we are honoring Evelyn. We are honoring Jill May Smith, a homeless woman in the Tenderloin who suffered brutal aggressions and who was burned alive. Homeless women go through so many aggressions throughout they're set on fire, they're beaten, they're sexually assaulted, and her life matters. We don't want her to just go off and not be remembered. And we want this to be an opportunity to educate the public about the impact that violence has on all women, including Natalia Smut, who is a transgender woman, a very popular performer, who was also brutally beaten for no apparent reason, just for being transgender woman. And we are honoring a grandmother of 89 years of age who was just exercising at Visitation Valley Park when a young man came and beat her to death. And here this great grandmother lost her life to a needless aggression. We're honoring a young 16-year-old who just died in the Bayview in the month of August. And her name is Jadea Tofaona. She was a teen. She was sitting on her skateboard talking to her family when somebody came by and shot her dead. So all of these women, their lives are important. We will not forget them. And we believe that this is a really good time for us to bring attention to domestic violence and to the fact that there are resources, many resources, such as the ones already mentioned and many more, where, if you need help, we have ample resources in the Bay Area to help you deal with anger, to help you deal with violence, preventing it. And if you have been a victim of violence or in a situation where it may lead to an unnecessary death, we ask that you access resources that are available in our community. And we invite you all to come on November 1st. We are having a community healing vigil in honor of the children we've lost to violence. And on November 2nd, we are having a community vigil and a living ofrenda celebration. We're having performers that are going to be honoring each and every woman that has passed, that has died in our community due to violence. And we are doing so by honoring them through art, through music, through dance. And we have an art healing table, and we are calling all of our healers, our curanderas, to come and smudge and help us heal from the traumatic events that our community constantly faces, and something that we could do to stop things. So I just, I'm here to promote, to bring attention to this problem, to denounce it, but also to say that there are resources that can help us heal collectively as a community, to stop violence in the streets. So the Day of the Dead this year for me is going to take place in the San Francisco Mission District, honoring these women. And I'm also creating an altar in North Beach, which is a space that generally is not, doesn't celebrate the Day of the Dead. But this year we were invited to Sunny Cove Studio Gallery. We are honoring the beat poets that have passed. We have lost many revolutionaries from San Francisco that use poetry to speak to injustice, and we are building an altar in honor of these these poets, is particularly Jack Hirschman, Diane de Prima, and many others that have passed this year. And you're invited to attend those events as well. I have sent a flyer with that information. So this weekend in North Beach, October 29th through the 30th, from 4 to 7 at Sunny Co Gallery in North Beach, and on November 1st and 2nd on the street on the corner of Cap and 24th in front of Calle 24 Latino Cultural District Office. You could see the altar and you could participate in the Community Healing Vigil. So those are the events that I'm promoting. But really, I just want to give a shout out to all those family support workers, those direct service workers that are working to support families in providing housing, food, shelter, medical services, mental health. These are our heroes. These are the people that are out there trying to transform their world and make a difference in people's lives. And I just want to honor them in life. Celebrating the dead is wonderful, but celebrating people who are doing great things like your show and all the people, all your guests on the show is very important.
No problem. Thank you. Very, very, very important stuff. Yeah, shout out to all of the direct service workers. Very, very important stuff. And I'm glad you brought that up. Yesterday we had our Sunday conversation about domestic violence. This is October, and it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we always want to continue to highlight that. And there are so many people that are impacted through domestic violence and other violence in our community. So thank you for bringing that full circle till tonight. And as community, we're going to continue to advocate for the women of our community and the violent victims of violence in our community, because there's so much violence happening in our community. And I know the story of the young lady who was sitting on a skateboard and was shot and killed. So these tragic things continue to happen in our community. And as community, we just have to be together and continue to highlight. And that's what we hope to continue to do here, and both sides of the conversation, to hear the story about the young lady who was murdered at the same time as Lacey Peterson, and as you said, didn't get the media coverage. Hopefully, this is what both sides of the conversation are trying to do: have our community media for our Black and Brown community, so we can have these conversations and highlight and make sure that community is aware. And when kids go missing and things happen, we can make sure that we do our part to get it out to our community so that people can be aware. So very important stuff. But I wanted to go back and ask you, I think it's very powerful that you're doing this early educational stuff. I'm a big advocate of early education, make sure that our young people get those services. And I'm glad that you brought up about the different times of service. There's a number of organizations who provide those services, and that was like the number one complaint that a lot of the single moms had, some of the single dad had, being able to have children cancel different services, but not during the times that they need it after hour. How big and how important is that? You're doing the work. I know there's a lot of nurses and different folks who work those off shifts, swing shift, grave shifts, and a lot of times they're put in the unemployment line because they can't get that child care service. How big of an important is that? It
is huge. If we want to break the cycle of poverty, we need to provide 24-hour child care. Our children deserve to be in safe spaces, and our families deserve to be able to get that promotion, to be able to move on. Sometimes, they keep working for poverty wages because there's no child care in some of the fields that our families work in, such as restaurant work, retail, factory work. A lot of our families are working in these industries, and there is little to no support for family childcare, for providing safe childcare during off hours. So I want to encourage other early childhood providers that care for children in their home to consider offering childcare during off hours. It's a good business. If you open up your hours after 5, from 5 to 10, from 5 to midnight, or early morning drop-offs, you will be able to fill your slots. So I encourage early childhood educators to consider entering into this business. And I'm calling it a business because we are educators, but we are independent business owners. I work out of my home. I work with what I have. I am not independently rich, but I have to use the resources that I have and start where I'm at. I don't have an investor. I don't have a big building. I have a small school with big impact. Why? Because I care for children. And not only do I care for them and ensure that they have a safe place to be, a stimulating environment, and home cooked meals, I also educate them. They deserve the best. I have my doctorate in education, and I encourage professionals to take the theory out of the university and go back into your community and give it to those who need it the most, which is our young children. They are our future. And it takes a village. It takes a village to raise our community out of poverty. And, if the institution isn't there, then we need to create it. If the media is not there to share our stories, then we need to create it the way you have. And we need to support each other. I am very grateful for the platform that you're giving me here to promote my events and my business. But I am just super grateful that you are there, and I want to see you funded, because you're the one that's going to care enough to tell that story of that woman of color that was forgotten. Her case is still unsolved. And we haven't heard of it. She's from the Mission. She's one of our own. All of the women that I featured in this altar are from the Bay Area, and their stories have received minimal attention.
Wow, terrible stuff. Thank you for bringing that up. Very important stuff, and that's what we're going to continue to advocate for. And we're not going anywhere. And we're going to fight through these challenges and look for the support. But you're right, we have to have our own media. It's the biggest thing that we've been lacking in our Black and Brown community, making sure that these intersections that meet get to our people, get the resources out. Thank you for the work that you're doing with our young people. I think it's very important. We want to make sure that all of our educators out there, early childhood educators, give them a huge shout out for the work they do. We know there's changes and things that need to happen to really impact the community, especially in these times of COVID, as so many families are in different challenges. To get those services is very important. So I hope everyone out there heard, if you are in that field, to consider to help out some other families. That's what it's all about. And that is the village approach. We all doing a little part to have impact, to really make the change. So thank you again, Doctor, for coming on.
And remember the Black Panther legacy. Let's just reflect a little bit. We don't have to go far. The model was already built. We just have to follow through. The things haven't changed that much. So let's get with it, people. This is a legacy year for the Black Panthers. And what better way to honor them than by creating the institutions that our communities need today?
Right. Definitely very powerful stuff. All power to the people. It is the 55th anniversary of our Black Panther Party. So we had them on our Legacy Keepers on our platform. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Community, you heard it. We all can do our part. Let's really build the institutions in our community that we need, that really impact us. And that's what we believe in here at both sides of the conversation, building this up to impact our community, make sure that we have the communication, the education, awareness that is needed so that we can make the change, be a part of the change in our community. Thank you again for coming on. If there's any people out there that reach out to us, want to connect to you for services, we'll definitely make sure that we get them to you. But community, the phone number, the information is running across the screen. If you're looking for support, you want to talk or reach out to Dr.
Martina.
Martina
La Latina. Martina La Latina.
Please reach out to her. If you want to go out and experience the Day of the Dead, please check out the events and we'll get those out. I've already shot some of those out, but we'll get them out to community as the event comes. Thank you very much for coming on, being patient tonight, for coming on and being part of our Hidden Gem segment. You are not so hidden now. The community know who you are, and they know how to reach out to you. Thank you for coming on, and anything we could do to support you here at both sides of the conversation, we'll make sure that we're there to help and support you in your efforts.
I have openings. Give us a call, uptownlittlebirds.com.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we going to our last Hidden Gem. She just waited so patiently tonight, And you know, sometimes they say you save the best for last. But with that being said, we're going to bring up Miss Julia so she could go ahead and introduce herself to the community and let the community know what she's doing and how we can get behind and support the things that she's doing. Good evening, Miss Lady. Thank you for being so patient.
Yeah, right on. Thank you. There's so many powerful speakers before me, so got some big shoes to fill, but that's all right. And then I just want to apologize in advance at all. You know, I got my 100-pound pit bull right here. I got everybody sleeping in the other room. So yeah. So if I get tapped on or anything, just give me a minute. Let me tend to them, and then I'll get right back.
It's all right. You take your time. Go ahead. It's both sides of the conversation. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So my name's Julia. I also go by Julia to Juju as well. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the managing director at the Young Women's Freedom Center. And the organization was founded in 1993. So it was basically this lady doing, her name was Rachel Pfeiffer. She was doing her dissertation on women and girls that were living and surviving on the streets. And basically what she did was she came and at the time it was called the Street Survival Project. And she trained them in health-based outreach. So she gave an opportunities to folks that were actually living, surviving, navigating every day on the streets. And she gave them some skills, and then they went out to the community. And one of the things that she found out was that how brilliant that this community of folks were. They were figuring out every day where to live, how to get money to take care of themselves. And she eventually left the organization to those young women. And so Latifah Simon, at the age of 19, she went on to run the organization for the next years. She won the MacArthur Genius Award. She's from the Fillmore District. The deputy director was 17 years old. And she had been somebody that experienced the juvenile hall at the time, YGC, over 13 times. So for her to become the deputy director, and then there was it's just a big community of young folks that were kind of birthed out of this youth movement, right? And so what was happening at the time, right? We're just coming out of the crack epidemic, AIDS epidemic, and all of these things. And so basically the organization's mission is to empower and inspire those that have been impacted by the juvenile justice system or the underground street economy. We work with cisgender women, girls, and transgender men and boys, and gender expansive youth in San Francisco. And now we've been able to expand throughout this whole state of California. So now we're in San Francisco, we're in Oakland, we're in Los Angeles, and we're in Santa Clara. And we're just kind of emerging out in Contra Costa County. But the idea still is to that investment in those that are directly impacted by those systems that kind of create this hyper supervision and focus inside of our lives. I'll let you know a little bit about myself. I came to know about the Young Women's Freedom Center around the year 2000. Actually, Latifah Simon at the time, she came into juvenile hall, and I was on the other side of the table. And I had heard a lot of people coming in talking to us and everything, but something stuck out to me about this person that came in there, and she kind of knew my story a little bit. She didn't know me, but she spoke my story, right? And it kind of was that piece that planted that seed of like, what's this organization about? And when I had came out, I found out that people that I knew inside of my community that maybe had navigated the underground street economy before or really came out the struggle were working and leading policy work and traveling around the world and to really make change inside of the community. And so one of the things that I knew is that, wow, they give jobs there, and so basically I came and I attended some of their programming, and I first attended Young Mothers United. When I came inside of there, it was the first time that somebody said congratulations to me that I was a young mother. I felt heard, I felt listened to, I felt like the expert of my own experience. And at the time, I didn't realize what I was getting myself into because there was definitely a political piece to it, right? So we're all just sitting around the table kind of talking about how systems impact us. And at the time, somebody was talking about being shackled at the time of birth because at the time they were shackling youth, children that were giving birth inside of the jail, and then they would let you bond with your baby for a day or two, and then they bring you back to the jail. And it was happening inside of the women's jail too. And so that created this policy, so the anti-shackling bill, which was one of the first bills that was to prohibit women from being shackled at the time of birth, because it's like, where are you going to run to, when you're giving birth? So there was definitely that piece of that individualized transformation and that community transformation work that it happens. And so basically, it's I came back and to work at the organization in 2014 as a self-determination coordinator. And basically our model is to meet folks where they're at, out in the community, inside of the institutions, let them know about what we're doing. They can come through. We do systems navigation work. We do, let me just look at a couple of my notes. No, I'll just talk about it. So we have our Freedom Coalition, which is originally was founded in 2017. And so while the Young Women's Freedom Center was doing this individualized transformative work and healing, and you talked about, we had a conversation prior to this show starting about mental health even, and about the healing that our communities sometimes are trying to get access to. And we promote maybe untraditional, like Western type of medicine. Sometimes, like with massage, Reiki, acupuncture, like whatever it is that somebody wants to explore to be able to begin whatever their healing transformative journey is as well. So definitely that piece of it. We're really known for our Siblings on the Rise internship, which is a 300-hour training for young folks to be able to go through and build up their hard and soft skills. It's a lot of us, it's you get a job, but then keeping it, right? The being on time, the sending the emails, the forms of communication and things like that, while you're involved in building your skills in civic engagement, public speaking. But we have people that I feel like for some folks that have traditional, like maybe going to college and they kind of have like this sorority or something, it's kind of like you're part of this um, generations of thousands of women and gender expansive and trans folks that have come through this organization that are so many different places, and to be able to to just build yourself and be out there. And we also have a 10 years strategy to decarcerate throughout the whole state of California for women and girls. And we're definitely at the forefront of a lot of the conversations about the YGC closure, the Juvenile Justice Center that's closing. It's supposed to be closing at the end of the year. A lot of myself included, and a lot of the young folks and community-based organizations had definitely came together during public comment to talk about their experiences of that facility, and looking at 3 generations into mass incarceration and who's disproportionately impacted inside of that facility. And we, it takes a village, and we no longer see that blocking a child inside of a cell, although although a place to confinement will still have to be like, there's federal law that says that there will have to be that place of confinement for specific crimes. Like it still does not need to look like it does right now. It looks like an exact replica of a maximum security prison, and for a kid, it's it's definitely, that's a place that I know really well, as a young person. And you definitely just adapt, and you figure out how to survive your situation. And for not a lot of people, it's not a very meaningful experience. So just trying to move away from punishment culture and actually addressing structural and root causes of what's really happening. And yeah.
Very, very powerful stuff. And I have to give you a lot of credit because, the work that you all do is very impactful. I'm up there at YGC with Jack and Omega folks and doing the work. And, I got to reach out to you because I got two young ladies that's in there right now, and I need to connect you with one of these young sisters.
I almost can bet that we're probably, because the population is so
very
small at this point. But even if I could just say, looking at like housing, right, and how expensive it is to be here in San Francisco. I remember my father coming to the jail when I was a young person. And when I found out that they were spending $300,000 per year per youth to keep them incarcerated, and I remember my father wanted me to come back into his home, but he said, I don't have a home for you, because he was living in the Tenderloin, and all he could afford was a closet inside of somebody's studio at the time. And he was a veteran for over 10 years. And I just remember at that moment, I was like, all that money. And it's like, well, are we really addressing like root causes of like what our communities need? And so, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for doing that. Just like I said, Latifah really touched my heart when she went in there, and I definitely have spoken inside of that facility for many years, and made that pathway for freedom for folks too.
Oh, no, definitely. And then, the updated news is it doesn't look like the juvenile will be closing, but definitely there'll be some changes that needs to happen. And like you said, our young people locked up. I'm definitely one of those people that says, we don't want to see people locked up, but some of our young folks dealing with depression, drugs, and things, committing certain crimes, need that time out, need that space to get their mind right. And there's some recorrection that needs to take place. But yeah, I definitely have to connect you. I got a very small population now because of the politics and the things that's happening. And we all know the real truth. The Black and brown population of San Francisco is diminishing. And, in this country, we don't lock up white and other folks. So that has a lot to do with it. But I mean, phenomenal program that you all are running. It's very important, just to have that support of community and those testimonies. And I think a lot of times the best work happens when you have people who've lived that experience and knows how to connect with our young folks. And it's just amazing how you all propel young folks into leadership. And I think that's something that we have to really think about in our community as we're pivoting, changing, coming out of this pandemic, because times are changing, the advancement of technology and things that's taking place. We have to let our young people lead. So that's phenomenal stuff to have a young deputy director of your organization, because it starts with those young folks. They have the vision. We have some talented young people. And I always get into arguments and fights. Some of these young people really have skills and talent to do some amazing things, and we just have to believe in them and support them, and give them that guidance and the knowledge and the wisdom of some of the seniors and elders of our communities to let them lead forward. I'm a believer in that. But the work you're doing is very powerful. We have to continue to empower our young folks in the community and make sure that they have the leadership and the folks like you that are putting in the work, making sure that they have a safe environment and they feel like they can be who they are. And again, our young people make mistakes. But as community, how do we support them is the biggest thing that I'm always fighting for. But again, a lot of the problems that I see in our community is not from the kids. We get the results.
Yeah, how do we shift the soil? Shift the soil and be able to provide something for them that really creates something that they can thrive and actually see themselves that I can have that house, I can buy that house, or I can have that business right there. And so like a lot of young folks can't see themselves inside of San Francisco right now. And that says something, that our Black and brown youth, they need to be able to see themselves to be able to thrive and be successful inside of this city too.
No, very, very powerful stuff. I mean, that's definitely a model that we have to present. You know, the cost of living and to have that experience is so much in this city, and making sure that we equipped our young people. That's why we're so big on education and making sure that our young people get an opportunity enriched with information, you know, to get the knowledge and information that they need so that they can live a life that is comfortable and be able to not have to do things with risky behavior or taking a risk to do something to sustain. And that happens a lot in our community. Unfortunate, but it's the truth. But thank you for all the work that you do, and anything that we could do to help support you here, please let us know. You know, I'm up there. I'll be up there tomorrow at Juvenile working with our young people. And definitely I want to connect with you offline and make sure that I want to get you this young lady. Very, very powerful.
My email, yeah.
And she needs some support, so I'm gonna definitely connect you with her. But that's great stuff. Just thank you for the work that you're doing, and anything we could do here at both sides of the conversation to help support, we will. And you know, just want to see how we could support you. That's what it's all about. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right. With that being said, before we leave question at night, I'm gonna bring up our other guests and see if we can have a question of the night before we get out of here. And tonight's question is going to be, I don't know if Joaquin is still there, but I'll pull him up and just in case he comes back in. But the question tonight that I really want to talk about, because I think it kind of all came full circle, the impact of violence, the impact of the women of the community, the living situations. There's so many things, there's so many crises happening in our community right now. And I think the real focus to me, just listening to Dr. Martina and things of that nature, is how do we as a community, when we talk about solidarity, there's a big push going on right now, not only in San Francisco, but across this country. Everybody's talking about solidarity, you know, coming together. How do we really bridge that solidarity into the community 365 days a year on all issues and concerns that impact the community? And the reason why I wanted to ask this question, because, you know, I'm in these meetings, I'm on these calls, and everybody's, you know, doing this messaging around solidarity and what does it looks like. You know, and it's also a part of me that's a little frustrated with solidarity, because a lot of times what happened is, you know, different organizations, different community folks, different backgrounds, you know, they pick and choose when it's time to be in solidarity. You know, we had the Asian hate thing that was going on and still is going on in our country, and everybody's in solidarity, right? But then there's issues like you all talk tonight about missing women of violence, our Black community, our brown community that's being impacted, and we don't get the same solidarity. We don't get the same support, right? So how do we really make this solidarity push that everybody's talking about realistic for all communities, 365 days a year, for all issues? Because I think sometimes we pick and choose the hot topic and then we forget about everything else, or we get into this mode of like, this is my community's issue and this is what I want to push on, but we don't come to bat for other people's issues when we talk about domestic violence, our trans community, our LGBTQ community, our Black and brown community, our Indian community. Like, how do we really push true equity and solidarity for all of our communities, for all issues, all the time, to really have impact and change? And I want to hear from y'all. Y'all tell me. I know that's a lot, but I want to hear from y'all.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I one of the things that I'm concerned about is when we get these slogans or these messages that come out of real movements like Black Lives Matter, and then the government agencies institutionalize it. Oh, we're about equity and diversity and inclusion, and they're paying lip service to what's happened, what you know, to the issue that we fought so hard to bring attention to. So it becomes legal to what I'm trying to say is it makes it easier to discriminate and continue the same pattern of oppression when we institutionalize certain slogans that come out of movements that are very important to us. I mean, it's like, yeah, we want equity and diversity and we want inclusion, but we don't just want it to be something that, now you're changing and now you're using inclusive language. Now you're doing all these things, but you're treating people the exact same way. And you're not doing anything to change things, throwing some money out to the same organizations to do the same old thing all the time isn't solving or addressing the issue. And it isn't about, and you are not being acting in solidarity with our community when you do that. So we need to call our institutions on this. We need to call our city agencies on this. Let's not just play lip service and be politically correct. Let's not play that game. Let's do something about things. Let's actually do something. If there's a pot of money, are we going to act the way we always act, fight for the crumbs? Or are we all going to be a united front and call it and hold our institutions to the fire?
Wow.
I'm kind of getting really tired of this,
Hey, I'm tired of it too. I see the same stuff, and you're right. People are fighting for the crumbs, doing the same old. But I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's very powerful that you said that. And these slogans, I think sometimes with our political parties is doing a disservice to our community. Even when we talk about, defund the police and different things. And I just wish when we talk about certain things, it's the messaging, right? Not the impact of what we really want, but how do we message it in a way that makes it clear and concise so that people understand. And I think that will help community kind of come together without so much pushback, especially when we talk about defunding the police. If we really had the message of we're just taking funds from the misuse and the militarized equipment that they have, and we're going to put it back into the community, I think that changes the tone of the community and more people come together in solidarity versus just, we take it from the police, and people don't understand when you say that. It triggers people. People get into all these different rants and raves about it. But I think you're right. The slogans is really having an impact on our community. But again, the same circle of what goes on with funding and different things of that nature is very terrible to see. And I think that's why our communities are hurting so bad. We don't have enough innovation. We don't have enough people that's willing to try something new. Everybody's just comfortable with things how it's been. And I think that's the change that's really needed because when we do the same old things, we get the same old results, and we see what's happening to our young people and to the people of our community. Mm-hmm. It's not really changing. And I think it's time to open up our minds, be open to something different, because right now what's working ain't working, and it doesn't matter what.
And it's important to go beyond using correct pronouns and actually treating people with respect, actually treating people with kindness and providing services, not just, we don't need the lip service. And politicians, you can jump on the bandwagon all you want. What I want to see is funding. I want to see you actually not just throw the funding out to whoever's been there for all along, but to actually have some accountability for what you're doing, because there is enough money to go around and there is enough money to address the issues that impact our communities. Question is, how are we all going to ensure that the money is well spent, that the deliverables are there, and that our community gets what it deserves, in terms of services. And, you're right. Julia said, we've been criminalizing, we're on this high horse of criminalizing activities. And it's not about that. It's not about criminalizing. It's about structural changes that we need to continue to push for in our community. Let's get behind that. Let's have a solidarity movement about structural change and transforming our communities and pushing back collectively, brown, black, purple, everybody, people of all colors. Let's get back to let's do that.
Very powerful stuff. Miss Julia, you want to answer that question before we get out of here? I don't know if Joaquin is there, but if not, you'll be the last question tonight because I know you're like, I got to get out of here.
You know, that one of the things I was thinking is that as we talk about solidarity, like what comes to our mind when we think about it, we're like, yeah, this is like we're all together, we're linked up, you know, but then there's also those like that critical discourse that we have to have. Like we have to be able, because it's like if we're all just co-signing each other, right? It's like, what do we really get out of that? Like we do need to have like really difficult conversations. And I'm talking about internally as a community, you know, because one of the things that I was put onto was that by a mentor that had told me is like, how do you end a revolution is you fund it, right? So if we're so reliant on this and we haven't actually built up this like stuff inside of our own communities of like the actual way that I'm able to walk outside, you know, like it took a death, several deaths on my street in order for us to come out and start to see the elders and to get to know their names. You know, like that's old school stuff. Like you got to know who's inside of the community, but it's like this idea of like the divide. It's kind of like the idea of he got your penny, no, she got your penny, but meanwhile, you know, capitalism got all the pennies over here, you know, like look at them, no, look at them, you know. So it's kind of like we have to have these conversations with each other. And the last kind of point, because I have to use a lot of analogies with my daughter all the time, is like if you're building a house, right? If you and we're trying to build this house so we can dismantle all these oppressive systems, right? For indigenous Black communities, Jim Crow laws, whatever they are, right? Everybody's going to have their different approaches, right? And who's to say that one approach, or we need many ideas? We do need to be able to do the wrong thing, because you know what, if we didn't try it, then we're not going to know if it works or not, you know. And there's some areas that we don't need to recreate the wheel. Like there's some approaches that we know to be true, right? That we have a lot of folks that came before us, and we want to honor it and take the baton and take it to the next level. But just saying those ideas that if we're all building this house, you know, there's going to be carpenters, there's going to be electricians, there's going to be a lot of people, there's going to be the architect, you know, all those things. So we have to just see where is our kind of where we sit within it.
Wow, very powerful stuff. There's many pathways to the top of the mountain. We can all pick a way we're going to get there, but we got to get to the top. It starts with solidarity. It starts with the phenomenal folks that are on here tonight to continue to hold people accountable, bring up the tough issues, have the conversations to move our communities forward. We appreciate you all coming on tonight as Hidden Gems, as this segment is so powerful. This is what this is about, uplifting our community, highlighting the folks that's doing the work in the trenches, because a lot of times you all don't get that recognition. So we're just happy to have you all here. With that being said, community, this Thursday, please tune in to our Educational Thursday at 6 p.m. We're going to have Dr. Leah come on, talk about financial literacy. Very, very important stuff. If you want to learn some things about finance, tune in for this Thursday, Educational Thursday. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, we will not have a Sunday conversation this Sunday. The next Sunday conversation will be happening on November 21st. We're going to have this 3 week. We're going to try this one thing, one conversation every 3 weeks to the end of the year. As we're restructuring, we're doing some things to help bring the financial capacity to this platform so that we can continue to move it forward. And we're going to continue to be out in the community doing the things that we do to impact our community. You'll still see me at Juvenile mentoring, working with our young people, doing the reentry work. I'll still be out in the community doing community events, doing the outreach with East Oakland Collective and a number of other organizations to continue to impact our community. That part of our organization is not going away. The only thing that's being impacted right now is our 3 live shows that we do a week. But we have some promising sponsorships, some great news coming. Things are happening, and I believe in community. We have some phenomenal people, and I think we're going to get there as we come into the new year. We'll be able to probably get back there with some of the amazing phone calls that we're having, some of the great information we're getting. We think we'll be right on pace to get back into it. If not, we'll keep you up to date what's going on. I'll be around. There's a number of community events, all of the Halloween costumes. Please, community, be safe. Watch the young people. families, mothers, make sure you check the candy because we do have people that are not always out in the community with great intention. Make sure you check the candy for your kids. Be safe out there. I won't be at a number of events this weekend because I'll be flying to LA. I'm going to be going with some phenomenal folks to work on some Senate bills that's going to impact our community. So I'm looking forward. I'll be leaving to LA to sit down, talk with some folks, network, and start working on some Senate bills that's going to impact our community with some powerful people. So I'm going to be out there, but I'll be back. And, be safe, community. Both sides of the conversation. We are here. All these people making these rumors that we're going away. We're not going anywhere. We're just doing some restructuring and doing some campaigning and some fundraising to help our platform move forward. Thank you all for supporting us. Continue to tune in. If you like what you saw tonight, please reach out to us. We would love to get you on our Hidden Gem segment. Or if you want to support, please go to our website. You could donate. We had a GoFundMe campaign. Look up both sides of the conversation and support. Make a donation. Reciprocity. Y'all know that's what I'm about. I always support my Black and brown businesses. I get out there and spend my dollars with my people. Y'all can go ahead and support us as well as we're trying to move this platform forward and do the things that we need to do for the community. But again, this was a powerful segment tonight. If you didn't get anything, you heard some powerful folks that are doing some amazing things to help impact our community. And that's what we're about, impact, trying to make sure that our community get the resources, the information, the education, and the awareness so that we can have better, happy, and sustainable communities that we need so bad. So thank you all for tuning in tonight. We'll see you all on Thursday, and then we'll see you all next Tuesday for our Hidden Gems. And in our Sunday conversation, relationship part 2, the first one was a blast. If you didn't see it, you better go watch it on our YouTube, see what was going on. There was a lot of fireworks, a lot of things was happening. One of the greatest conversations. Everybody liked it. So part 2 will be coming November 21st. Hope to see you there. And we'll continue to do what we're doing to impact the community. We love you. Be safe this weekend. It's cold. Think about the people out there that's unhoused. Donate to the toy drives. Get the covers, get the coats, and all that stuff out there to our folks. We'll be out there for our Feed the Hood event as well as our community skate day to have a great time with community and bless our community for the great work that everybody's been doing to just have a day to just relax and enjoy each other. So we'll see you this Thursday. Have a great evening. Thank you for tuning in for tonight's segment of our Hidden Gem segment. Good evening, everybody.